The year is 2022. Apple is coming off a successful release of the iPhone 13s, but they still have millions of iPhone 8 bodies left from years ago. So they decided to update the current iPhone SE with the new A15 Bionic chip, a new camera, and the same design that we have known for years. In a world where every smartphone company is releasing larger and larger phones, the iPhone SE marks the last phone with a smaller form factor, budget price, and more than likely home button that Apple will ever release. We live in a time where phone design died a long time ago. The iPhone SE 2022 is a renegade from a bygone era where you could tell what phone somebody had just by looking at it. I bought one to show you that the iPhone SE 2022 might just be the very best phone that you can buy in 2024.
You should buy the iPhone SE 3.
This is the iPhone SE 2022.
One of the cheapest iPhones that you can get right now.
Never underestimate the power of the home button.
All right, so here is the iPhone SE 2022, iPhone SE 3, whatever you want to call it. This is the current phone that I'm using. Of course, I'll be making a video about me using it for a week, but I just wanted to make a video talking about how I think this is actually the best value phone Apple has potentially ever offered, or at least that they're currently offering right now, based off price, performance, and everything. Looking at the price, Apple sells this for $429, which I don't think is actually a good deal. I think that you're paying kind of too much for that because this is now a 2-year-old chip. That's too much money for a design that's this. It's not an expensive design. I actually personally like the design, but it's not an expensive design, so it doesn't really require the $429 price tag. However, on Amazon, it can be had for about $220, which means you're gonna buy a phone that's gonna get at least 4 or 5 years of security updates on the latest iOS. The specs of the 2022 iPhone SE have been slightly updated to accommodate a slightly larger battery, better CPU, and a slightly better camera system, but the display remains the same as the previous models. The 2022 model carries a 720p resolution Retina display, an A15 Bionic CPU, 64 gigabytes of storage upgradable up to 256 gigs, a new 12 megapixel rear camera, and support for 5G. All in, day-to-day usage is very similar, if not identical, to the 2020 iPhone SE model. This phone was released in 2022 with the 2021 phone models, and Apple iPhones typically get 7 years of support, which means you're expecting another 4-ish years of support on this. And at $220 divided by 4, you're talking about literally like $55 a year for a phone, which is actually like a really good deal. And then you sell at the end of it for like another $100, and then you're talking about literally like $20 a year for a phone that is getting full security updates. This isn't like the iPhone 10, which I have here. This isn't like this phone where it's no longer supported. This phone in some cases can even cost more money than this, and this phone is still supported and will be supported for a long time. Difference obviously is going to be the screen and the way it looks. And while I personally love the way this phone looks, I know a lot of people don't. But another thing I love about this phone and the entire SE lineup is that it is a rejection of modernity. We have been programmed since birth to want bigger, better, faster, more, and while in some cases that is great, when it comes to something as potentially harmful as a smartphone, I am telling you, reject it. Reject what modernity is programming into you. You can make a valid case that even this phone is too much, but it covers all the bases of a good phone, which for me is small, screen that doesn't suck you in, latest iOS, and solid rear camera. This phone is a chef's kiss of perfection. It's just so classic and iconic. I love the phone. So obviously on this channel, my biggest thing is trying to get people to get off their phones. I know obviously YouTuber making video about making people get off YouTube. I have to go to the lion's den in order to fight the lions. So I actually have a few phones in front of me here. And these are some of my favorite phones that Apple's ever made. And if you notice a pattern, these two right here, this is the iPhone SE 2020, and this is the iPhone SE 2022. This is the iPhone SE 2016, and this is the iPhone 4S. So these phones right here are some of my favorite phones that Apple has ever designed. The reason I like them so much is because, in my opinion, they are going to pull you away from their phone. They're cheap. They are exactly what a phone needs to be. Yes, they can take the 4K at 60 video. They have a high quality camera, and they can run the latest games. You can do photo editing, all that stuff. You can do everything with it because the chips inside of these, especially the iPhone SE 2022 with an A15 Bionic, is just ridiculous. But the biggest thing is that the design and the way that you actually use these phones, they're not built to suck you in. And so far, having used this phone now for a couple days, the biggest thing that I'm noticing is that this one's a little bit snappier than the iPhone SE 2020. No surprise, it's 2 years newer, but I still feel the same lack of pull to the device, which I think is a good thing. Obviously, I don't want to be using my phone a lot, which is why I sort of intentionally use worse phones than maybe I could technically afford, but I'm fine with that because it's a phone. I want people to start looking at phones no longer as status symbols, but just as devices that they can use to do basic tasks. But beyond all that, this phone is actually just really good at being a phone. If you have bigger hands, you might feel a little bit cramped on the keyboard. The camera in the back is really solid, the front-facing camera is nothing to write home about, and the day-to-day usage is actually spectacular. It's extremely responsive. It just does everything you expect it to do. The best thing that I've noticed so far is just how fast the camera app opened up for me today. When you have 2 kids, a fast camera app is an absolute lifesaver. The battery is 200 milliamp hours larger than the 2020 SE. It's not going to really drastically affect battery life because this is still a phone with a tiny battery, so expect that you're not going to get a lot of battery life. Again, that's not a big deal for me. I haven't had a problem with the battery life using it for the last couple days because I don't use my phone for more than like an hour every single day. Screen on time, from my tests, I was running YouTube videos and it seems like you get about 3 hours before it shuts down. And that's not that long, but don't use your phone for 3 hours and then you'll be fine. And finally, this is me just speaking out into the world. The iPhone 4S is the greatest designed iPhone that's ever been invented. And the reason is because I have tiny little girl hands. But look at this. I can spin the iPhone 4S in between my fingers. What I want is Apple to make an iPhone SE 4 in this form factor. Take away the bezels, I get it, whatever. You go back to Face ID, whatever it may be. Could you imagine this phone? Yeah, the battery would be like, whatever, 1,000 milliamp hours, but who cares? Wouldn't this be the greatest phone? Like, I would love this phone. A flat, I want a flush camera. I want everything to be this exact same thing except for the updated screen. Just make it a little bit bigger, whatever they have to do. So thank you for watching. I'm really looking forward to using this phone and I've really enjoyed using this phone to this point. If you want to see me using this phone for a week, hit subscribe. And if you want to see me using this phone for a week, it'll be linked right here. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next one. Peace out.